We are here tonight for a special meeting to consider and appoint a new village manager for the next coming years. I want to thank everyone who's gone through this process with us. We have 4 exceptional candidates, Andrea Aga, Timothy Kelty, and Mark Taxis and Joe Rasco. They are all fabulous, and I thank you all for believing in Key Biscayne and submitting your applications for consideration. We are delighted, and we have, again, 4 great candidates. It's going to be a very difficult decision. We had the guidance of our recruiter, W.D. Higginbotham, and I want to thank you, sir, for your service. We have gone through a very good process. I will now open this portion of the meeting.
I'm sorry, Mayor, if I may take roll call first.
Please do.
I'm sorry. Vice Mayor Kaplan?
Here.
Councilmember De La Cruz?
Here.
Councilmember Gross?
Here.
Mayor Lindsay?
Here.
Councilmember McCormick?
Here.
Councilmember Moss?
Here.
And Councilmember Petros?
Here.
We do have a quorum. If we may please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now public comments. Karen Llorente. Yes.
Karen Llorente, 345 Cypress Drive. Over the year, and you know that we've been here many years, over the years there have been many, many issues that have come before the council, that have come before the village.
Can't hear you.
Well, listen more carefully.
Karen, get closer to the microphone, please.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, much better.
Okay, you know that over the years that we've had many issues come before the village, before the council. There have been agreements, disagreements, and always they've been done with courtesy, consideration, respect, and civility. There is now a person, a small group, that has come with a vendetta to hurt one of our candidates. And this has infected the whole issue as it's gone from the beginning to now. It's a shame. It's just a shame that this village has gone to this low level, that people would make personal attacks on one another. It's not good for any of us. Is this going to be the future? I certainly hope not. As far as Joe Rasco goes, everybody knows. Raul, you read Raul's articles in the paper, you know exactly how we feel. We've worked for Joe. We feel very, very comfortable and very confident that Joe will be what this village needs. The past few years, there's been a totally dysfunctional council. And I think that we need Joe to help put the council back on track. And remember that Joe worked with Sam Kissinger, worked for Sam, worked with him as both a council member and as a mayor. One of the things he did when knowing Sam, who seems to be a god here, is that he learned from Sam. He learned how to do, how to manage, how to start up. He went to 2 different cities that became cities, and he went in as an interim manager, and he set up the cities. He set everything in motion. They're still working, they're still functional today, and they're still prospering today. And you could give Joe all of the thanks for that. That's it.
Thank you very much. We do not have anyone else. Okay. We will be.
Want to speak, sir? You want to speak?
No, it's fine.
He came up and he sat down, and we made eye contact. He seemed to be okay.
I feel the same way as you.
With that, we will be closing public comments. Thank you all for being here. We will be moving forward. WD, if you could please come forward and explain our options and what we are going to do.
Madam Mayor, council members, for the record, I'm W.D. Higginbotham with the Mercer Group. I feel like this is my home lately. I've been here so many times, but I love it. Nonetheless, we, just to update on the process, we reopened the recruitment. We had several candidates. We have four that, we had five that were selected by you to interview. One of the candidates withdrew. The four remaining candidates attended a meet and greet last evening. It was well attended. The interviews took place today. All seven of you interviewed the candidates. Some of you, I think, may have interviewed some of the candidates at another time. But nonetheless, all of you interviewed all of the candidates either today or prior to today, and perhaps even more than once. Following the interviews, we scheduled to meet this evening with a special meeting. I did want to suggest to the mayor that I've spoken with the candidates. They've agreed to step aside this evening and out of courtesy to each other, and perhaps there's a room upstairs that they could attend. I believe the fire chief would take them there with the mayor's permission. That's it.
Thank you, Eric.
There you are. Madam Mayor, there's no right way or wrong way how to go from this point. I want to share with you a couple of options that I've presented to you. One includes a ballot where I have all four of the candidates, and there's a fifth classification as a matter of routine. I put it in as none of the above. It's not something I like to do. It's never been selected, and I hope it will continue to be that way. I had suggested that before any discussion takes place, that you would want to at least take the first ballot and select your first and second candidate. There's been discussions of other approaches. One was to just open it up with a vote or selection of a candidate to see what would happen with that. Those are two options that have surfaced that seem to be and as I said before, Mayor, they've occurred in more than one occasion, and there's any number of options beyond that. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the Mayor. If you choose to go with the ballot approach, again, I suggested the 1 and 2 candidates. I think the fact that you've interviewed all the candidates and spent hours doing so, that you have an opinion, and it would be my recommendation that you would express that opinion first, and then we take it forward. Express it either as a vote up front or as a ballot. With that, I will give copies of the
Thank you very much. WD, and I defer to you, but yesterday when we spoke, the recommended process was to do a ballot selecting 1 and 2. So if that's okay with everyone, maybe that's the most efficient way to get this process started.
I think that's what we thought was the best path.
Fair enough. Good.
I have one question about that, so we all understand. Is this going to be to select the 2 of our top choices, or is it to select our individual number 1 and number 2 choice? There's a difference.
We're only hiring one person.
I understand that, and that's why I'm saying, why do we need 2? Why don't we just select the one person? And if in fact that one person gets the majority of the votes, it's done. Why do we need to select 2 people?
Personally, I think that what Mr. Higginbotham and I don't agree on a lot of things, but I certainly agree on this one. I believe that choosing 2 people gives us then the opportunity to look at the last 2 and possibly adjust our vote. you know, and I think,
I
that-
could
So
go
you
with
just
that.
want to put a check mark next to them?
Yes.
Or
Yeah,
num-
Just a check mark.
yeah, just a
Check
check
mark.
mark.
Or next to 2.
Check mark.
Okay, well, so that is, do we have
fine.
consensus?
That's fine.
Fine.
I will provide each
Please,
with 2 sheets.
sure,
As a reminder,
Yes.
put your name on the ballot.
yes, it's
'cause
public
this is a-
record.
This is a public record. Madam Mayor, in response
We can't just
to
check 2?
Councilman Gross, I would suggest that if you have one candidate, then just put that one candidate. There's nothing wrong with that. Some of you may have a toss-up, some of you may have only one candidate. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there's no right one way, and every time I discussed it, there was always another alternative. There are countless ways we can approach it.
Thank you, Jim.
We're using one and doing 2 check marks?
Does anyone want to say anything?
I'd say I found this to be one of the hardest things I've done. They were all so incredibly qualified, and the enthusiasm that each one of them brought for the key reminded me of what an absolutely amazing place that we live in. And I was really excited to hear 4 different people giving amazing ideas and seeing a really bright future for us.
Yeah, I want to second that. There was a time in this process where I think some of the others were very concerned that we would end up with a good candidate to select. And for me, this has become a difficult process because we have more than one good candidate for sure. And that's a good thing. It just doesn't make our job easier, but it's a good thing. It's a very good thing.
Agreed.
So,
I feel like we're an admissions board at a prestigious university. You know, I haven't decided what I'm going to do in 30 seconds yet. That's an indication of how complicated I think this decision is for me. And in making this choice, I'm looking out over the people that are here because we all work for you. And we've tried really hard to listen to you and understand what you've been trying to tell us. But at the same time, you know, we're your representatives, and that's the way that works. So it's our job to filter through all the data and all the information and who these people are and what we think this job right now today really requires. And in the short term, which includes a lot of transition in our village because there's a lot of new things that are going to be happening, but also in terms of institution building, you know, furthering the evolution of our local government, which is a work that never stops. And one of the conundrums that I found most difficult is, although I think there's not much of a hair between any of these candidates in terms of skills and capabilities and success, I don't think that there's perfect overlap in transition and in long-term institution building. There's a lot of overlap, but it's not quite perfect. So this, to me, is a compromise choice, and we have to do the best that we can to make the wisest decision that we can.
Mr. Delacruz?
Yes, to everything that's been said. This has definitely been the hardest thing that I've had to do since I've been on this council. And it wasn't made any easier by certain things that happened, but that's for another day. We'll look at that another day. But certainly we have, Village of Key Biscayne will be great off tomorrow because of the process and the way that we pushed it and the way that we adjusted it and that we didn't give up and that we asked for more people to come back and to knock on doors and to make sure that we didn't leave any stone unturned in order to get what I believe is the most important decision that any of us are going to make while we sit here on this dais. And I take my responsibility extremely important. And so I met with every one of these candidates. I met with them for between 3.5 to 4 hours each, except for Mr. Kelty because he was out of town and I couldn't see him physically. But between original telephone conversation before we narrowed down the candidates, and then thereafter, I believe that I did my homework. I did everything I possibly could to make the best decision that I possibly could for you. And there were some things said in public which was very unfortunate. I felt that it was an insult to my friend Brett Moss, which he didn't deserve. And again, that'll be something for another day because I plan on addressing it at some point. But to focus on what we're doing here, we have one candidate that has an enormous amount of experience. If it was just for experience, we know who we would pick. It's hands down. There's another candidate that is very progressive, that thinks out of the box significantly, that doesn't have as much experience, but I think could very well help us along for the next 10 years or so, which is, I think, what we should be looking at in terms of a manager, anywhere between 5 and 10 years. And then there's another candidate who happens to live within us, and that particular candidate has some things that you can't reproduce. Now, you can't study living in the village of Key Biscayne. You have to live here in order to understand what it's all about. And I think I've been here almost as long or as long as Joe has, and I think we have an opportunity to have somebody from our own island help us along the way. So having said that, again, whatever happens, we'll be in real good hands tomorrow. So, okay, I have to finish talking first. So thank you very much for your...
Katie and then Brett.
Okay, I second pretty much everything everybody said up here, and I really appreciate all the candidates, not only that are here now, but that expressed an interest in our community. And I would like to ask all of us, when we make our final selection, to discuss what is the next step and how we're going to move forward on entering into a contract and how that goes, because I haven't done this before, so I want, before we leave tonight, I want to have that discussion. So if we need to have something tomorrow at our regular council meeting, it's in place and before our big break.
Very good.
I just want to say I agree with everything that everybody said, so I'll keep mine very short. But for sure, the more that we sat down and spoke to each candidate, the more difficult the process got for making the decision, because they're all excellent and they all have their uniqueness. And what Katie just spoke about is important. We need to look at how we're going to deal with the contract and how we are going to deal with the transition period as well, and how that's going to work. And I think we should start having those discussions very, very soon.
Okay, so where are we?
May I say one more thing?
Sure, Frank.
I guess we have another round, right?
It looks like we do.
How does this work?
One of the things that I'd like to tell the community about how I've approached this in almost equipoise decision that I have to make is that I'm leaving this council, and I've tried to intuit as best I can the desires of the people that are going to remain on this council, because they're going to be working with the manager, and I'm going to be home doing something else. So I've had in mind a little bit less me and a little bit more others. And I think to mention that as part of my thought process.
We're not letting you go that easily.
If I may, out of the 4 candidates, Andrea Aga received 6 votes. Mr. Mark Taxis received 4 votes, and Mr. Joe Rasco received 4 votes. So if we may select from the bottom 2, 1 candidate, to then derive with the top 2 candidates. So it would be one extra round of voting.
Not everybody gave their 2 names. Some people
Everyone
only
gave
one.
Correct,
Because we should have 14.
correct.
We only have 10. Oh, no, we have 14, yeah, that's right. No.
I'm sorry, we have
Yeah,
14.
my brain is done today.
We have 14.
We have 14.
I thought the only thing that I was confused about was who to select, but your explanation just now leaves me in fog.
The bottom two candidates received this tied. So now we would have to select one.
But you mentioned 644?
644.
We could also make a move to
Someone can move.
To-
Yep.
take the candidate that received the 6 votes.
Do you want to make that
So
motion?
we're still winnowing down to 2, in other words.
We could
If
do
we
that, or
choose-
we
that
could
was-
select one at
If we
this
choose to,
point.
we got an outcome we
we
didn't
don't have to.
anticipate.
Run through the numbers again, please.
Andrea Aga received 6 votes, Mark Taxis received 4 votes, and Joe Rasco received 4 votes.
Okay, so do we want to get to 2, or do we want to get to 1? That's the decision right now.
Well, we already made that decision that we were going to get to 2.
Yeah, why don't we get to 2?
Okay,
Okay.
All right.
fog is cleared.
So we're selecting the one that we want to continue on against
From the bottom 2.
Andrea.
From the bottom two, the one that received the tie vote.
Put your name again.
It's out of respect.
Thank you. No worries. No worries.
I do want to address what we have, and we have a room full of people, which we are all very grateful that we have such an engaged group of residents. We had a meet and greet yesterday, which was incredibly well attended, and individuals were there just with great intentions to get to know the candidates. I know that this has been sometimes a difficult process, but I want to thank everyone that cares so much about the village, that they educate themselves and they want to participate and they want to help. So just a big thank you from me. Thank you for your input and thank you for your engagement. Thank you, Robert.
The only mistake that I think we made for next time is we should have a cocktail party tonight.
We should have had a cocktail party 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
Only if we finish early.
I think we should defer tomorrow's meeting to another day, because I don't know about you, but
Your,
I've been otherwise distracted.
ladies and gentlemen, your council has earned its pay this week.
So we're, okay, Ms. Clerk, where are we?
So we have Mr. Joe Rasco received 3 votes and Mr. Mark Taxis received 4 votes. So the top 2 candidates would be Mark Taxis and Andrea Aga. And you have the sheets before you for the final round of voting.
Cheating.
I have to write commentary. You know what else, guys? This process has brought us closer together.
I'm glad to hear you feel that way.
Do we make,
All right.
Congratulations, Andrea Aga received the most number of votes.
we need to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to offer her the position of village manager.
Second.
Please call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mission accomplished.
Meeting adjourned.
Are we done?
No, we're not
Well,
done because.
what's the next step?
So the next step, the last time, we simply delegated a member of the council to negotiate a contract. We worked from the form contract that's been in use for this purpose in the village forever, but tailored as appropriate. So what do you think?
I think we need a little time to review the job description and some of the terms. I think we need to circulate that contract because
Can we do that?
we have some things that in the last year, different council members have articulated that they want to implement as best practice. So I think we need a short lead, but we need a little time to circulate that contract and to firm up that process.
So is it your thought, since tomorrow's the last scheduled meeting before the break, that we would have a special meeting to discuss this, or wait until we come back in
I
August?
have an idea.
No, we can't come back.
We
I
cannot,
don't think so.
What
I
about,
don't think we can wait until
No.
August. Yes.
what about if we have a discussion of what we think generically we want to have in place? I know myself, I would very much like the evaluation component as part of the contract. And if we can delineate what those are, and then we could appoint somebody to work with our attorney to come up with a draft of what we want, and then that will eliminate a step in the process.
I think that's great, and I'm glad, I know that that had been articulated, and there are a couple of other things, so absolutely.
Can we circulate the contract and then bring this up tomorrow and?
As a
make that
discussion
decision?
item? Absolutely. Absolutely.
If we
And
get
make
to the
a plan.
discussion item.
If we get to the discussion.
But I think
items.
tomorrow we might have to defer some stuff, so.
That one needs to be, maybe we can put that at the top of our
That-
list.
That to be would be my priority.
Why don't we put it
and
on the managers or the attorney's discussion item that's time certain?
Or
And
we
we have to
can
hit
do a
it.
special item before some of
time
the other
certain special
action
item?
items,
Okay.
because
Chad, do you have any recommendations?
I think that's a good idea. Brett Schneider will be here also tomorrow night, so he can address any particular employment issues you may have. But I think we can circulate the contract, maybe Jenny tonight.
Sure.
And then tomorrow, we can take feedback and we'll prepare the agreement.
Well, I have a question, Myra.
yes.
This is actually somewhat of a negotiation.
Yes.
It's not a unilateral decision by us.
Right.
So I'm not exactly sure how we arrive at that negotiating position by going down the road we're talking about now.
Well, I think that there are some things that are negotiable and other terms that are just, we want it, for example, an evaluation. That to me is not controversial, and it's not, and it shouldn't be negotiable. I think it's a best practice, but it's we're silent as to it. So there are certain things that we may want to beef up, but there are terms that are absolutely.
And as soon as we can get all of that delineated, then we can hand it to our new potential manager and see what her response is. But that's why timing's important, because I think we do this, and then we say, this is what we're offering, and then we hear back from her, and then we take it from there.
Okay.
The variables are actually pretty few. There's compensation.
Correct.
There's benefits. There's scope of responsibilities that we know we're going to elaborate on.
Correct.
And there's term. I can't think of anything else that's really at issue.
You're correct. It's very few. It's just a matter of timing when we can get it back before you to act because of the summer. So I think that
Well, if we make this discussion
Correct.
happen tomorrow, could we potentially bring this up as a special item before our budget workshop?
if the mayor or 4 members of the council call a special call meeting, then yes.
Council, do I have a motion to call a special meeting before our
Moved.
budget?
I second.
Please call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
What's
So
The
to be
meeting will
clear,
take
that's
place
what-
at the
what- that's what we
26th
just
at
moved?
5 p.m. to have a special council meeting June 26th at 5 p.m.
And also, I'll just let you know, tomorrow night, I'm going to call for an executive session. I was going to hopefully have that on that day also.
Oh, that's right.
maybe I can do it right after, before. Mine shouldn't take very long,
Fair enough.
so.
Okay.
Would you like to hold the executive session at 5 and then proceed, or the other way around, whichever you prefer? Being that it's a special
Why don't we
council
do the
meeting, it's open to
executive
the...
session, then the
and then- right,
contract,
'cause
and then
it's
get
open
on
to
to
the
business?
public.
Let's do the executive session maybe at 5:30. Do you need more than
I,
half an
I
hour?
only need a half an hour. It's just a time-sensitive piece of litigation.
So let's do executive session, 5:30, special meeting for terms, for review, contract review
At
at
what-
6, and budget workshop at 7?
At 7? Okay, I'll change the time, because right now, the
It's at
budget works,
6.
it's at 6.
Okay,
So I'll change it I'll push it to an hour later.
thank you.
I think we don't have any other business tonight.
Madam Mayor, with your
Yes.
permission, although she doesn't need an introduction, I would like to introduce your new village manager.
Thank you. Thank you so much for trusting in me, and I trusted in the process. I think you have made the right decision. I will work diligently. I will get everything done that I can with my heart, with my mind, with the staff that we have behind me and with me. I thank all of you. I thank my family, and I'm not going to let you down. So thank you.
Would you mind if we do a retreat in Henderson, Texas? Thank you, Mr. Kelty.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I just would like to say that I have a new appreciation for Key Biscayne and have been felt to be very welcome and fully considered. And Andrea has her work cut out for her. She's going to be a fantastic leader for you. I'm sure what you're looking for. Congratulations on your decision.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who wants a drink?
Who wants to move to adjourn?
I second.
Meeting is adjourned. Go
Thank you.
drink.